Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Cynthia Milton. Tuesday, November 7th is Election Day in the state of Mississippi. Voters will go to the polls to decide everything from governor to their local elections. Some say this is one of the most critical races in decades, and it has far-reaching implications for voters. Joining me this evening to talk about the election and those implications are two history makers and trailblazers. Mike Epsy is the former Secretary of Agriculture, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, the first African-American to hold that position. He's also a former congressman for the 2nd Congressional District, and he came in second in the race for the U.S. Senate in 2020 against Cindy Hyde-Smith. Also joining me this evening is former Mayor Harvey for the city of Jackson. He is the first African-American to serve in that role. Both men are very knowledgeable of Mississippi's political landscape and how voting or not voting will decide the future the state will go in. Gentlemen, welcome to We Believe Digital Network.
Thank you.
It is an honor to have you both here. So let's talk about this governor's race. We have the incumbent, Tate Reeves. Tate Reeves has touted his record regarding economics, touting a $4 billion surplus in the 2022 fiscal year. Also, good high school graduation rates. He's also talked about he doesn't want Medicare expanded, and he thinks that Democrats are radical, trying to give transgender care to children. And then you have Brandon Presley, who is, many say, a different kind of Democrat, a Democrat who is unapologetically pro-life, a Democrat who is vocal about the right to support arms, a Democrat who says, I am not one of the good old boys. He wants to expand Medicare to include many of the working poor across the state. He wants to see the state leadership be more diverse and more representative of our population in terms of its racial makeup. People say this race could be a dead heat. He has close to match the incumbent in fundraising efforts, so it's going to be a very interesting race, to say the least. So, gentlemen, let's talk about the differences in these two candidates. And I want to speak to how Brandon Presley is not your traditional Democrat, so to speak. What effect do you think that has had on his success in this campaign so far?
Well, first of all, Doctor, thank you so much, Dr. Milton. Good to call you Cynthia?
Yes, okay, that's fine.
All right.
Absolutely. And
good to be here with my good friend, former Mayor Harvey Johnson. Mayor Johnson, Cynthia called us history makers. That means that we must be old.
I guess
right?
So.
All right, but we have a very exciting race tomorrow between incumbent Governor Tate Reeves and Brandon Presley. And it feels different when you look at what they've raised. Mr. Presley actually is outraised Governor Tate Reeves. That's an indicator of the interest in this race, particularly nationally. It looks like Mr. Presley knows his challenge. His challenge is going to be to get out the African American vote, because Mississippi is still a Republican state, fair rule. Mississippi can be defined as like 60-40, generically. It's 6% white and 40% black. We have more black votes in Mississippi than any state in the nation. And so we've always had a challenge.
Again. I think that's worth repeating.
Mississippi has more, the Mississippi population and the voters per capita, is larger than any other state in the nation. So if we just ever voted our strength, then we would win some of these races going away. But let's go back to what reality is right now in 2023. Mississippi is 60-40, team red, team blue, team Republican, team Democrat. And the team Republican usually can be characterized as rural, white, Christian, and pro-life. And Mr. Presley is rural, white, Christian, pro-life, from Northeast Mississippi. So he fits the model of sort of like a Republican, like a generic Republican candidate, but yet he's Democrat. So the question there is, how many of those white, Christian, pro-life, rural, white voters who are Republican, that he can pull over because of his policies for Medicaid expansion and the taint he's put on Mr. Reeves regarding his role in the TANF scandal. And then he has to pivot and get black voters. So I know a little bit about getting black vote. 2018, we got more black votes than any candidate in the history of Mississippi. And so...
and I should clarify, because you ran against Cindy Hyde-Smith, who was the interim senator in 2018. She was appointed to fill...
a former governor...
former senator.
A former governor selected her to be the interim senator, so I ran against her in 2018 and got 47% of the statewide vote. And of that vote, we have got a history of making 35% of the black vote, of the black electorate, and probably 23% of the white vote, with enough crossover. I lost by 3%.
So you needed 51% to take that.
It's 50 plus 1.
50 plus
50
1.
plus 1.
So that's 50, is that 51?
No, it's 50% plus 1 vote. Then you win.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is.
So I want to just put a pin on that, because one of the things one of the messages we want to get to the voters is just the importance of voting. Do you hear him say 50% plus 1 vote? I heard someone tell the story. I heard Presley tell the story that there was a person in Kentucky, and he ran and he got 50%. He came 1 vote short of getting the 50% he needed, and it was his wife. He forgot to vote that day.
I mean, here in Rankin County, it's a very local anecdote, but there was a supervisor race here in the adjacent county, and it was 50-50, and they flipped the coin to see who would be. So it's that close.
So when you think it doesn't matter if I vote, think about that. Think about that. The kind of leadership you want. That you think about those issues that affect your life on a daily basis, whether it's your infrastructure or policies or programs. And when you don't go and exercise your vote, other people are making decisions for you that you didn't have a say in choosing.
In this race, if you look at the recent polls, they're very close. It's 46-45 or 46-46. Very tied, and I really believe that it feels like it's tied. So Mr. Presley's duty is going to be, since he's pro-life, getting that white vote, and then reaching over to get the black vote in the urban centers like Jackson. And he knows that's his challenge. So we'll see if he's up to it tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think he has. Someone said to me, this has been a remarkable race, and it has been. I mean, we've had Democratic candidates from governor. I mean, the last one we had Jim Hood, who had some attraction to rural white voters, but he wasn't able to pull it off. But I think that this Presley has come out swinging, and he hasn't stopped swinging. And I think if you watch the debate, you see that he has the kind of grit and gut, as he called it, to do a good job as governor. I think his policies are attractive to the black community. This whole notion of expanding Medicaid, of course, goes across the board, black and white. But in Hinds County, over 25,000 people would be put on, would have affordable health care who don't have it now. And so, we need to pay attention to policies, pay attention to what he's saying. He wants to do away with sales tax on groceries, which is a very regressive tax. On the other hand, the governor wants to do away with income tax. Well, and most of the people in Mississippi are not going to benefit from that, especially in the African American community, but they will benefit. Everybody will benefit if, in fact, you can reduce or do away with the grocery tax. So there are policies that are being touted by Mr. Presley that I think are attractive to the African American community, and we need to pay attention to that, and we need to get out and vote. And that 50% plus 1 is very important. There's another thing that we need to be said about this election that wasn't like this in the last gubernatorial race. You used to, dating back, I guess, from the 1890s and the Reconstruction, the governor's race had to be decided not only by the majority vote, but also by the majority of the districts, representative districts in the state. Well, and if that didn't happen, then it would go to the House for decision. Well, guess who's sitting in the House? So now here's an opportunity really for your vote to count, because it's going to be counted at the polls and not by someone who's sitting in the state legislature if this particular candidate didn't get all of the majority of the House district. So this is it's been a remarkable race. This is a remarkable opportunity, I think, for us to elect a Democratic governor, and one who I think has policies and who has a platform that's going to benefit African Americans.
So you talked about those initiatives. Governor Reeves supported eliminating the income tax, and candidate Presley supports eliminating the grocery tax and cutting the car tax in half. Right. But when those monies go away, Mississippi is not a rich state.
Right.
So as those monies go away, or those sources of income go away, how do we make that up? How do you think, you've been one in those budgets where, how do you think those funds will be made up, and how will that affect communities as they, look to fund their government?
Well, no question the funds have to be made up. And right now we're reeling at the federal level and at the state level, quite frankly, from cuts in corporate income tax without any kind of replacement at the local level. So right now, municipalities rely on a rebate from sales tax that's collected in the municipality. About 18% comes back to that municipality. So, and part of that, of course, is grocery tax, not all of it. And so if the grocery tax is eliminated, there will have to be a replacement some kind of way. But I don't think it would be as dramatic a replacement as if you eliminated the income tax, which it makes up a large proportion of the revenue coming into the state.
And speaking about filling the hole in our budget bucket, it's really going to be interesting to see how this issue of Mr. Presley resonates with white voters who oftentimes vote against their interests. His number one issue is Medicaid expansion. And so to fill the state of Mississippi's budget bucket, we're missing $1 billion from federal money that can be used to provide health care for working Mississippians. It's not welfare. They're working Mississippians, but it's just the entities they work for cannot provide health care. So when they get diabetes, when they get heart disease, when they get any number of maladies, it hurts the state economically. So, and it's just, that's the 6% of Mississippi I'm talking about. So what percentage of the white, rural, Christian, pro-life people will go tomorrow and say, okay, the hospital in my community has closed. It is the bulwark of the economy of my local area, and now it's closing. And so if Mr. President's governor on day one, he'll do his best, either with this legislature to bring Medicaid expansion here and fill that $1 billion budget gap. So it's going to be really interesting to see how prevalent it will be for the white Republican Mississippians to check his name because of that number one issue. These hospitals in our state are closing, and they're the economic engine of these communities. The supermarket, the schools, and hospitals. Hospitals are closing.
And some people are saying, though, that expansion of, and I think I said Medicare before, I apologize. Medicaid. Mm-hmm. Some say, that refusal, that resistance to the expansion of Medicaid has been germane in those hospital closing, and others say, receiving those funds will help undergird those rural hospitals and help keep them open.
There's no question, and I think the evidence is the endorsement by the Mississippi Hospital Association of Mr. Presley, who have been stung, quite frankly, by the policies of this current governor and his refusal to get behind the expansion of Medicaid. So I think that those people that Mike is talking about are opening up their eyes, and some are going to come across. had a friend tell me that he saw a yard sign, a Trump yard sign, and a Presley yard sign in the same place. So there's some movement there.
That's a good place to pause. We're going to take a second and have a break, but we're going to come back with more of Decision 2023 in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Welcome back to We Believe Digital Network. I'm Dr. Cynthia Milton. I'm your moderator tonight as we talk about Decision 2023 as voters prepare to go to the polls Tuesday. And I have with me former Commissioner of Agriculture, Mike Epsy, and former Mayor of Jackson, Harvey Johnson Jr.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm so glad to have him here as we talk about the issues facing voters and the impact of your vote or your lack thereof. And so talking about impact, so one of the things that we all know a lot about, we have to travel, we have to go across our roads, and that's affected a lot by the person who's in the office of Transportation Commissioner. And in the Central District, we have Willie Simmons, who is up for re-election. Mayor Johnson, you know a lot about roads and the importance of it. Talk about the importance of casting your vote in this particular election.
Well, some people think that when you get down ballot, these positions don't count for much. But let me assure you that the Transportation Commissioner is very important to the citizens of the city of Jackson. And when you compare what Commissioner Simmons has done over what was done by his predecessor, who I've worked with for about 12 years, there's no comparison. He's paved, he's enhanced I-20, he's enhanced some of the interchanges around I-20. He's paved Highway 80 from Clinton all the way to Terry Road. He's paved Woodrow Wilson. He's done a lot of things that needed to be done and that the citizens of Jackson have benefited from, and they need to remember that when they go to the polls. I had an opportunity, as I said, to work with his predecessor, and it was very difficult getting anything in the city of Jackson, and now we have someone there who's delivering. So, my hope is that the citizens of Jackson will remember that when they go to the polls. It's a very important position. There are millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, in fact, that come through the Department of Transportation, and Commissioner Simmons is sitting at the table, and he's making sure that the communities that he represents are well served by those hundreds of millions of dollars.
Could I echo what the mayor just said about Willie Simmons? I've known him for 40 years. When I ran for Congress and I won in 1986, a seat from the 2nd District of the United States House of Representatives, Willie Simmons was the chairman of my Bolivar County Committee. It's 1986, and he went from there and then went to the Mississippi Senate, where he ended up being chairman of corrections, and then ended up being chairman of transportation, and then elevated to MDOT, Mississippi Department of Transportation. In Mississippi, we have 3 commissioners because it's split by like width, northern, central, southern. And the central is the most difficult. That's Mr. Simmons's district, because it goes from the Mississippi Delta on the Mississippi Riverside, which is black, low income, lack of education, all the way over widthwise to the east part of our state, which is Mississippi State, upper income, more elite, academically oriented. And he's got all of these, they're poles apart, and they represent both of them marvelously. Because the first thing he understands is that the roads west of I-55 West, those roads have been, let's say, underserved. The people in those areas are underserved and overlooked. And so he's taking part of this federal budget he's getting and the money from the state of Mississippi that he's getting through his MDOT budget and paying attention to those Delta counties that have been overlooked, while not overlooking Madison County, Rankin County. Also, so he has a tremendously difficult job. He's done it well. He won by a squeaker 4 years ago. He won by 51% against his challenger. But now, the Bible said, let the work I've done speak for me. He's done really well, as the mayor said, and I think now look for him to get a whopping vote tomorrow based on what he's done by not ignoring those areas of Mississippi that have people would consider to be privileged in their transportation dollars, but also not forgetting about the underserved areas in Mississippi Delta. He's done both and done well.
And not only that, but as Mr. Epsy said, he's qualified. I mean, he served as chair of the Transportation Committee in the Senate. Mm-hmm. He watched and saw where the money was going, how it was going to be spent, and how it should be spent. And he's taken that experience and those qualifications and used it well. And so oftentimes we talk about candidates being qualified for office. I don't think you can find a more qualified individual for any office than Willie Simmons for Transportation Commission.
He's extremely capable. The individual running against him got like 30. He ran for this office before. He got 36,000 votes. So that's within the whole district. That's not very good. So we look at Mr. Simmons to do very well tomorrow, and I encourage everyone who can vote in the Central District, vote for Willie Simmons. If you're tired of seeing potholes, if you're tired of seeing roads that go to nowhere, vote for this man, because he knows what he's doing and he's proven.
Well, I want to just take a moment, because we are in Hinds County, and just run down the offices that are up for election in Hinds County, because I just think it's responsible for us to go over. So, of course, we talked about the governor's race. That's Brandon Presley, Democrat, and Tate Reeves, Republican. In the race for state lieutenant governor, we have the incumbent Delbert Holtzman, who's a Republican, and then you have D. Ryan Grover, who's the Democratic candidate. For the Secretary of State, you have Michael Watson, who is a Republican, and Ty Pinkins, who is a Democrat. For the State Attorney General, you have incumbent Lynn Finch, who's a Republican, and then you have Greta Kemp Martin, who is the Democratic candidate. For the State Treasurer's Office, you have Addie Green, Democrat, and David McCray, the Republican candidate. For the Commission of Agriculture for the state of Mississippi, you have Robert Bradford Sr., the Democratic candidate, and Andy Gibson, Republican. For the State of Mississippi Commissioner of Insurance, you have Bruce Burton, the Democratic candidate, and Mike Chaney, the Republican candidate. For Public Service Commissioner, we have for the Central District, you have Brent Bailey, the Republican candidate, and DeKeither Stamps, the Democratic candidate. For State Senate District 29, you have David Blunt, the Democratic candidate, and Michael Carson, the Republican candidate. For the State House of Representatives District 67, you have Earl Banks running unopposed. For the Hinds County Chancery Clerk District, you have Eddie Jean Carr running unopposed. For the Hinds County Circuit Clerk race, you have Zach Wallace, Democrat. Oh, those are Democrats, by the way. Banks, Carr, and Zach Wallace running unopposed. For Hinds County Coroner, Sharon Grisham Stewart, Democrat, running unopposed. For Hinds County Attorney, we have Gerald Mumford, Democrat, running unopposed. For Hinds County Surveyor, we have Jeffrey Maurice Lewis, Republican, running unopposed. For Hinds County Sheriff, Tyree Jones, Democrat, running unopposed. Wow.
I believe Tyree has an opponent.
I'm sorry. Okay, I think a little bit of my paper got cut up. I
Yeah,
apologize.
he does, but he shouldn't, and he's going to blow it away.
Okay,
Yes.
we'll try to get the name of that other candidate because we want to.
No need to.
We'll try to get the name of that other candidate
Okay.
before we leave the air.
Yes.
And then for supervisor, we have District 5. We have Bobcat McGowan, Jonathan Pond, Chris Biscuit Woodard. McGowan is a Democrat, Pond is an independent, and Woodard is an independent as well. It's interesting, we have two independents. For Justice Court Judge, District 5, Democrat Pearlie Brown Owens, unopposed. And for Constable, we have Beverly Wade Green, Democrat, unopposed. And we have Eddie Fair for Hinds County tax collector, Democrat, running unopposed.
Well, and I appreciate you going through that list, but there's some other races that are not on here. This pertains to where you're located in Hinds County. For instance, I know that there's a supervisor race, I believe, in District 3, and there are a couple of races that are not on here that perhaps before the broadcast is over we can mention those candidates too, because you know how people get if you think that they think they're being ignored. But this this just
So
depends
just let you
on-
know, I did pull this from the office, and but we will go and get that.
Can we talk about one name that we haven't really discussed? I asked the mayor what he thinks about this, and I'm going back to the governor's race. Gwendolyn Gray will be on the ballot tomorrow as an independent. Now, Ms. Gray is an African-American female candidate who withdrew from this race, but it was too late to take her name off the ballot. So she's going to be on the ballot. So I've heard it both ways. I heard that this is great for Mr. Presley. I've heard that this is great for Mr. Reeves. And the two scenarios would be, let's say, somebody who may have voted for Tate Reeves but doesn't like what he did with Medicaid expansion and TANF, just sort of throwaways their vote. They can't vote for Brandon Presley because they're Democrat, so they'll vote for the independent. But Miss Gray is a black woman, and she's endorsed Mr. Presley. And people say if they vote for her, that's a vote away from Mr. Presley. So, however it goes, she could be a person that throws this race into a runoff. If neither one gets 50%, it'll be in a runoff because of Ms. Gray. What do you think about that?
Well, and if it is a runoff, then there'll be a runoff election a couple of weeks later, I believe, instead of going to the House. So
That's right. That's right.
So it is, but it's just I guess one of the downsides of politics. People get in races and they decide that they don't want to run, and then it's too late to take their name off the ballot. And we're in that situation now. We're very pleased that Ms. Gray has endorsed Mr. Presley, but it is going to be confusing to some voters. And I think it's important for people to recognize and realize that she is not an
elective candidate.
Right. She's not in a competitive position. She wants her vote, or if you would vote for her, to go to Mr. Presley. Whether that happens or not, we just have to wait and see.
Mr. Espy, I'm so glad that you brought that up because that is confusing. I didn't mention her because I knew she had withdrawn, and I thought maybe this ballot had not been updated. But
she withdrew,
I thank you
but it
for
was too late to take it off.
So because some people will see that and think, perhaps that she's still a candidate. So thank you for clearing that up.
Bar. The issue is, who's that going to hurt, Mr. Presley or Mr. Reeves? Or we don't know.
Do you think? I want to bring up Mr. Presley again, and you did a very good job of talking about how he's a Democrat that in a lot of ways fits the profile of a Republican. And do you think he may be a model for some to follow? Because I think people do tend to think. I know a mayor further west who was a Democrat who became an independent. He said, well, I just can't vote for abortion. My conscience won't let me do that. That's why I became an independent. But do you think this sets a new model that whether you're a Republican or you are a Democrat and there are values of yours that don't necessarily line up with what's perceived as the traditional values of the party, that people will run even though they may not have values that line up on line, precept upon precept of what is thought to be Republican or Democrat.
So we talk about the issue of choice, pro-choice, pro-life.
Things like pro-choice, guns, transgender.
Let's talk about pro-choice, pro-life, because Mississippi is following the trends. On the Democratic side, most of those voters are pro-choice, particularly young black women. And in some polls and research I've done, my research has shown a disappointing fall off in participation of young black women below 27. And that's for a lot of different reasons. Maybe they don't feel engaged, maybe they don't believe that, but voting's gonna do anything to improve their personal life. I don't know. But most of them tend to be pro-choice. And so in the Dobbs decision, that was overturned by the United States Supreme Court, we see that issue as being a leading issue in most of these elections won by Democrats. And so I want to see tomorrow if that hurts Mr. Presley, because that's, he's pro-life. So does the Medicaid expansion issue trump that issue, and will they come vote? So we just don't know. I don't disparage Mr. Presley. That's his deal of hell view. It's his deal of hell view, and so he's not a hypocrite about it. But he has to walk that line. He has to say, I'm for Medicaid expansion. If you're a young black woman and you need, if you need medical care, just forget about the fact that maybe I have a chair's position that's pro-life.
And Mr. Epsy, I'm going to ask you to hold that because we have to go for a break. We'll be back with more of Decision 23 right after this.
Hey, have you heard about the Accountable Card? It's more than a card. It's a complete mobile banking service that's accountable to all of us. You'll get a no credit check debit card good anywhere Visa is accepted to make purchases, deposits, even get or transfer cash with an FDIC insured bank account managed from our smartphone app. There's even a pre-approved no interest line of credit if you need emergency cash. So why go to the bank when you can have ours in your pocket? Get accountable. Just download our app today.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, Keepers of the Knowledge for People Who Speak the Truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
SocratesGarrettENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. SocratesGarrettENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.Dot grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Cynthia Milton. We're here at We Believe Digital Network, and we're talking about Decision 2023, the general elections coming up November 7th. I'm here with former U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Mike Epsy and former Mayor of Jackson, Harvey Johnson Jr. And we were talking about, before we went to break, about Mr. Presley and how he didn't quite fit the mold and how that's a tough road to navigate running for state office.
But he might have the right model. He might have the right model. We're going to see, because on the Republican side, as I said before, his profile is white, male, Christian, pro-life, and predominantly in Mississippi, these are positions that they ascribe to, and so they may just leech over and cross over and vote for him for his positions and his profile. And then all he has to do is assiduously court the black vote and get it out. And that's his formula for victory.
You know, and the other thing in terms of getting the black vote, I think Mike was talking about the dilemma perhaps that black females under 27 may face because of Mr. Presley's stance on being pro-life. But I think what's happening is what we have to, I guess, reconcile is this whole notion of center politics. I mean, we're going to have to come to the center to elect candidates who carry out programs that are in our best interest, and so we're living in a time now of extremes. I mean, either red or you blue, and what we see in Mr. Presley perhaps is a purple candidate. What we've seen in Georgia are purple results. So we have to, I think, in order to progress, because of the extreme politics that we're engaging in nationally and statewide, to look to the center and make some compromises in terms of our positions to make sure that overall our interests are protected. And there may be, you're not going to get a perfect candidate that aligns perfectly with all of the things that you want to align with. But what candidate or which candidate has programs, has policies that are going to be in your best interest long term? I think that's critical. And perhaps, as Mike said, maybe this is the model we ought to be looking at, the purple model, instead of a red model or a blue model.
Because particularly as a Democrat, it's been very difficult for any Democrat to win a statewide office.
Yes.
So does that make that even more necessary to look at as Democrats tend to gain more ground in that area?
Mississippi,
want to try to gain more ground in that area.
So it is what it is today. It's Team Red today. But I believe that in the near future, we might see it tomorrow.
Because for many years it was Team Blue.
It was Team Blue, and it switched. But we may see it tomorrow. But Mississippi economically is changing. We're becoming less rural and more suburban. And if we follow the national trends, the more urban, the more suburban, the more likelihood it is that those in those areas will vote Democrat. The more upper income, the higher income you get, the more education that you get, the likelihood is that those people vote more Democratic. And we see it in Mississippi. We see it in Lee County with Ole Miss. We see it in October, Lowndes County with Mississippi State. We see it in Forest County with USM. We see it in Madison County, which is a suburb of Jackson. We see it in Rankin. These areas are becoming more and more Democratic. And so Mississippi's changing. We're becoming more diverse, if you believe it or not. We have more Hispanics now coming to Mississippi voting, and we have more tourism here coming. And so I don't know if it's going to take 5-6 years. I just don't know. We might see it tomorrow. But I'm very optimistic for what I see for Democratic possibilities in Mississippi and for black voters. There's never been a black statewide politician. Why? I got 47% of the vote. So 3% more, we'd be in U.S. Senate, so we were there. But we got crossover votes from these areas that I talked about, in these upper income areas of these suburbs. But we're still a rural state. We don't have enough of those areas. We have very qualified candidates. The last thing I would say, why we don't have more black candidates, is that it costs so doggone much to run for office. I raised $17 million and lost. And so it's because the national parties, particularly the National Democratic Party, they don't believe that black candidates can win in Mississippi because they don't believe that white voters will vote for a black candidate. But it's like catch-22. They won't give you the money until you can prove you can win, but you can't win until you give you the money. Yeah. Yes, and so it's a dilemma. And it's just so very expensive and hard to run for office, make those phone calls day after day after day. So that's why we don't have more black candidates. But it's changing.
And we have candidates, of course, now running, black candidates running for statewide office. But Mike is right. I mean, raising money is very difficult. I only raised money for the little old city of Jackson, and that was a very difficult process. But what the other point that he made is very noteworthy, and that is national Democrats up until this point, and have not had the faith in Democrats, not only black Democrats, but Democrats to win in Mississippi. So you don't have the kind of resources, didn't up to this point have the kind of resources flowing from the National Democratic Committee, and I served on that committee, executive part of the committee, and had arguments all the time with these policy wonks in D.C. who said, well, you just can't win. And as a result of that, you just didn't have the resources coming into Mississippi. I was telling someone, I believe it was Hillary Clinton, I didn't see a yard sign in Mississippi for Hillary Clinton. And it's that kind of, I guess, snubbing of the South by the National Democratic Party, not only here in Mississippi, but other places where they feel the Democrats can't win and we don't have the resources. So maybe after tomorrow, and if Mr. Presley prevails, there will be light at the end of the tunnel, and we can start getting resources in here to support the kind of candidates, whether they're black or white, but certainly we have a number of black candidates on the ballot now, but I would venture to say that they probably haven't gotten any money from the National Democratic Party.
And it's important to note that Mr. Presley he's raised a lot of money, and a lot of that is national.
Most of his money has come from the National Democratic
he's
governors.
done well in the numbers with that influx of financial support.
Because we have other governors, Democratic governors running, Kentucky, Louisiana, and the Democratic Governors Association looked at this race and said, hey, there's a possibility to win, and so he has $14 million. In Mississippi, he's done a lot with it. Mississippi is they call us a cheap date. Because we're such a rural state, we don't have a lot of expensive media markets. It doesn't take that much money to get your message out. It really doesn't. I mean, $10 million, $12 million to get your message out is pretty good for Mississippi. And somewhere like California, New Jersey, I mean, $10 million that's a county race. So it's very difficult here, but people don't believe it. It's nothing for a Senate race to be $100 million. And I raised 17 and did pretty well. $20 more million could have been a difference. So it's a catch-22. You have to do it before people can believe in you enough to know that it can be done. So we may see it tomorrow.
So I'm going to ask a question. I know people are wondering, will you run again? Will you ever consider running again? $17 million, 47% of the vote.
I ran twice. I'm sitting here today, I'm 69 years old. And it's a very difficult prospect to run for office. I've made phone calls from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's why my voice is probably like it is now, the residual effect of that. I would say no. I would say probably not. I mean, I've been in U.S. Congress I never lost the election in the Congress. I ran 4 times, won 4 times. Secretary of America, never had another one so far. And I want to be a U.S. Senator because I know being one of 100 men or women in the U.S. Senate could impact the lives of every Mississippians immediately. That's why I wanted to be a senator. I came close to 18. I got more votes in 20 than 18, but the delta was a little bit farther. We increased black vote by 2%, but Donald Trump was at the top of the ticket. He increased white vote, rural vote by 10%, and so we got swamped. So I say, looking at all of this, I'm saying it's grueling. I wanted to be a senator. It was not to be. And so what I'm doing now is helping others. You know, I'm helping those who want to run. All of these African-American candidates whose name you read today have probably called me. I've probably talked to them. I've donated to a lot of them. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. So I'm helping others.
Now you're a breach builder.
I'm helping others, yeah.
So you told me you get asked every day. Someone asked me a couple of days ago, would you ever consider running for mayor of Jackson or another elected office again?
Well, you know, I've learned in this business never say never, but it's highly unlikely that I would throw my hat in the ring and ring again for any other political office. And I also told you that my wife has veto power, and right now she's not inclined to let that pass. So, you know, I enjoyed being mayor. I served 3 terms. It's a great opportunity. It's where the rubber meets the road at local government to help people to make decisions every day that are going to impact the lives of people in a positive way. I appreciated that opportunity that citizens extended to me, and I'm not throwing my hat in the ring for any office at this time, and any time in the foreseeable futures. Mike is 69 years old. I have a few years on him, so that's not likely. And I really think that over time. I believe in the democratic process. I believe that voters don't make mistakes. I mean, and if they make a mistake, then they can correct that mistake through the democratic process. What bothers me is a guiding hand stepping in like the legislature to try to correct that process. And I think that's what is happening here in the city of Jackson with House Bill 1020.
I was going to say that's a good place for us to talk about House Bill 1020.
They have taken away the possibility and the opportunity for voters to make any kind of correction in a mistake that they've made by expanding the capital city complex, appointed judges.
Yes, Mayor. Let's talk. I think most people will have heard it. Let's talk about what that bill did. It was a bill by the legislature. It targets the city of Jackson. It increased the capital city improvement district significantly. And then it made for appointment of a certain number of judges. I think there was some support given to the district attorney's office that was moved back from under the hand of the district attorney, and then it expanded policing for an area. Most of it is North Jackson. I think Jackson State was included too. The perception is, we'll just be frank, the perception is that it was. Policing was expanded over affluent areas of the city of Jackson, and many people feel like it was overreach. And so I just kind of wanted to explain what that entailed for those who may not be familiar with what that entailed.
And people see the Capitol Police. Let's just start there. And I'm not anti-law enforcement by any means. I think we definitely need law enforcement. But if we're going to put 150 additional cops on the street, they need to be under the command of the chief of police of Jackson, and not under the command of a chief of police who reports to the commissioner of public safety, who reports to the governor. And so that is a problem as I see it in terms of 1020, but it also is just one indicator of what I was talking about earlier, of the rights of voters here in the city of Jackson being taken away. Another example would be the 1% sales tax commission that oversees about $13 to $15 million a year that's collected in sales tax, and that commission has say-so over which streets gets paved in the city of Jackson. That's taking away that responsibility from the duly elected officials of the city.
And is that unique to Jackson?
Oh yeah, no question. It's unique to Jackson. Now there's only 2 cities that have the ability to collect this sales tax in the history of the state. One is the city of Jackson. The other was Tupelo. Tupelo collected money to extend a water distribution system, a collection system from the 10 Tom all the way into Tupelo back in 1956. The legislature allowed them to institute a sales tax, but no commission. But in Jackson, when it happened here, there was a commission that was put in place. And by the way, it's a 10-person commission. The city of Jackson only has 4 appointees on that commission. 3. The Chamber of Commerce has 4. So the Chamber of Commerce has more commissioners or appointments on this commission than the city of Jackson. Another example is the sales tax that's collected within the Capitol Center complex for road improvements. There's an oversight committee that has say-so on those street improvements in that area. So there are a number of things the 1020 is obviously the aspects of it are very damaging, but there are other things. The airport that's being that was being taken away in terms of the authority for the city of Jackson to run the airport, that's still being, I guess, litigated, but the legislation was passed nevertheless. And so there are a number of things that are happening, in my opinion, that are infringing on the voting rights of citizens here in the city of Jackson, and it's not blatant. It's not, you got to dig to look at it, because
some would say, well, you have crime in Jackson.
Right,
We're giving extra cops. We're helping you.
Right, exactly, exactly.
We're giving you extra judges to release the caseload, and we're helping.
And streets need to be paved. There are potholes out there. What's the problem with these 10 people or 8 or 9 people or whatever they are making decisions on that? Well, the problem is that in this state in particular, people literally died for us to have the right to vote. And we finally got to the polls and voted and elected blacks to office. And now what we see is that the power and the authority that those duly elected black officials had and have, and we fought for, is being usurped, being taken away slowly. And we're watching it right in front of us. It's a death with 1,000 cuts. We're watching it right in front of our eyes, and we have, and don't get me on water and sewer, because there's another thing. I mean, people were touting this governor about, he's coming in and saving the water system. Well, there was no state money involved in that. If it was state money involved, FEMA, the federal government reimbursed the state for it. In the process, it placed the control of that system in the hands of, but ultimately in the hands of one person. So one man now is making decisions on repairs to the water system and the sewer system. When it gets done, who does it? I mean, we're talking about $450 million out of the $600 million that are going to go for improvements to the water system alone. Who's going to benefit from that? How many businesses, how many black businesses in the city of Jackson, how many workers, how many unemployed, underemployed workers are going to be able to benefit from the expenditure of that money? That decision is in the hands of not of your local elected officials, but in the hands of one man.
And that's...
It's nothing I can add to that. I agree with everything he said. I sit on the board of a very large social justice nonprofit, and we sued the state of Mississippi with regards to 1020. The lawsuit calls some amendments in the implementation of that bill, and I think it's anti-democratic. I think it's wrong, and there's some racial motivation behind it, and hopefully we can change it.
Yeah.
We talk too much?
No, I was just thinking, I wonder what the response would be if someone told Madison, we're going to have a board and we're going to decide, about your police and how that's done. We're going to make those decisions for you. And you can only have 3 people. We'll have 10 people. And you can only have 3 from your particular community.
Well, in my law practice, I represent Madison County. Madison County is mostly, it's like 60-40, It's a Republican state. I did pretty well when I ran for Senate, and I'm the lawyer for Madison. I think that if that type of a proposition would come to the county fathers, that it would not be met with any glee.
If it got to that point,
that's
it probably would get to that point through the legislature.
No.
Well, we've been here, and we're talking about Decision 2023. The election is Tuesday, November 7th. We're going to take another break, and we're going to come back with some closing thoughts. Stay tuned.
Wedding, milestone anniversary, or corporate event, 5 Star Lodge is the rustic elegance you need for your event space. With hardwood and stunning chandeliers, this is just the beginning of the 5-star treatment. Our on-site venue manager will ensure all details exceed your expectations. We offer a luxurious bridal lounge, beautiful reception hall, cabins, and an outdoor pavilion on the water. Visit 5stareventlodge.com to get started on your most memorable experience.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
And welcome back once again to Decision 2023. I'm Dr. Cynthia Milton, along with former Secretary of Agriculture Mike Epsy and former Mayor of Jackson Harvey Johnson Jr. And so we've talked about a number of issues, tried to educate our audience on what's going on and on votes. Closing thoughts, anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up? Mayor Johnson?
Well, it's very important for people to recognize the power of the governor. The governor in the state of Mississippi for a long while was a weak governor. He could only run for one term, and then we finally got the legislature passed a law to allow him to run for 2 terms. So the legislature really has the power in the state of Mississippi to control the purse strings and all of that. But the governor has the administrative responsibilities in the state. So the governor appoints the Commissioner of Public Safety, who oversees the Chief of Police of the Capitol Police. The governor appoints the commission that oversees the Department of Environmental Quality, that hires the person who's going to carry out the policies related to improving our sewer system in the state and water system here in the city of Jackson. So the governor has a lot of appointive authority that affects us as citizens, and we can't disregard that. And so you have to look at the policies that are being, whether we talk a lot about expansion of Medicaid, that's one. There are other policies that adequate education, adequate funding for education is another. There are policies that the governor can advocate for and impact that also impact the lives of our citizens. So just don't think that, we're only just going to vote for this guy, and that's going to be it. The person you vote for is going to have some continuing impact on your lives, and that's why you need to give careful consideration as to the policies and the appointments that have been made by this particular governor. By the way, he has the ability to unappoint people as well, as what happened to Brad Pygott, who was leading the investigation into the TANF scandal. So he has authority that should not be overlooked by the voters.
Mr. Epsy?
Well, we started this hour speaking about the governor's race, and so perhaps we should end it there. The polls are very tight, reportedly, 46, 45, 46, 46, with 8% or so undivided. Governor Tate Reeves is an incumbent. He starts from a very strong position. Mississippi is a predominantly red state, so it's a 60-40 state, so he'll start with somewhere 55 to 60. And so Mr. President's job is to peel it off. As I said, repeating myself, he has a profile that resonates with most Mississippians in the 60% side. He's white, male, rural, Christian, and pro-life. So if they agree to vote for him for these attributes of his, there'll be a lot of crossover votes tomorrow. So his only job is to really, with his enough money, that $14 million that he's raised, put in the black community to get that vote out. If he gets 43% of the black electorate out, 45%, we got 45% in 2018, he'll win. So we'll just have to see what happens. And that means that no one out there should take this race for granted. Don't sit at home. Don't decide you have something more important to do. this is very, very important that you get out to vote, not just for the Democrat, Mr. Presley, but for all the candidates up and down this slate. All of them, their time, their energy, they put into trying to represent you. So don't let them down. Get out to vote tomorrow.
What are you gentlemen, what are your feelings about, what are you encouraged about in terms of the future of politics in Mississippi, and what are you concerned about regarding the future of politics in Mississippi?
When you asked me what I run again, and I said no, what I'm doing is identifying and helping to mentor younger men and women, mostly minority, who want to run for office. And there are some outstanding candidates that we have on the bench. You're going to hear their names here within the next 4, 5, 6 years. Outstanding. And we just have to create the predicate for them, to do well. So I feel really good about the future of Mississippi being able to elect Democratic candidates. And I said it before, once they're elected, there'll be national notice, and they'll begin to get more money and more prominence.
My concern is just the disenchantment of people with politics. I mean, and the national scene is not helping by any means when you have the kind of rhetoric that's being espoused by some of the mega Republicans and divisive type of actions and policies that are being taken. So people have a tendency, and this is one of the things that I guess was a challenge to me at the local level, is just educating voters about the importance of voting, and that politics is here to stay, and that you need to be a participant and not just be an observer. Mike mentioned that got a 35% turnout for African American voters. Well, that needs to be 50%, 80%. It needs to be 100%. I mean, and why isn't it? So so we've become accustomed being satisfied with something less than half of the people who are registered voting in the African American community voting. And so we have to correct that. And I'm concerned that the kind of politics that's being played nationally and statewide is not helping us to try to shine a better light on politics, to encourage those young people that Mike was talking about running, not only encourage them, but encourage their cohorts, their peers who are voters, to vote for them and not to sit at home and not to be disenchanted with politics. Politics is a dirty word. Politics is here to stay, and please, you need to be a participant and not just an observer.
Politics keeps your hospital open. Politics gets you your student loan. Politics helps you in your future. Tip O'Neill used to say that all politics is local. If you want the potholes in your street to be fixed, you should elect a mayor that pays attention to that. So it's you can't run away from it, as the mayor said. You might as well have somebody who will listen to you, who believes in you, will take your phone call. You'll know where they live, and when they go to work every day, they'll be thinking about you and your future.
Thank you both, gentlemen. I want to go over some of those other races. We mentioned Hinds County Sheriff Tyree Jones running. He's a Democrat. We also have Reginald Thompson, who is an independent. We also have Charles Stokes, who is a Democrat, running for Hinds County Tax Assessor. He's the only one on the ballot there. We have Anthony Tony Smith running in Supervisor District 2 as a Democrat, and Darrell McWhorter as an independent. And then we also have in the Justice Court Judge District 2, Tabitha Britton Porter, who is a Democrat running unopposed. Also for Constable in District 2, we have John Brown, who is a Democrat running unopposed in that election as well. And for District Attorney District 7, we have Jody Owens II, who is a Democrat, and we have Darla Palmer, who is an independent. You've been watching Decision 2023 on the We Believe Digital Network. I'm Dr. Cynthia Maxey Milton. Also joining me this evening were former U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Mike Epsy, as well as former Mayor of Jackson Harvey Johnson Jr. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to vote. Have a great evening, everyone.